Hey there, welcome back to Checking the Gate. My name is William, and this podcast exists to shine a light on independent filmmakers and independent films, and to serve as a resource and a guide for those looking to create and distribute their own independent films. Today is really special. Today is the first interview podcast episode. It's been solo shows up till now, but today we're interviewing someone really special. This guy has been in my wife and I's orbit for about a decade, and in the last year and a half, we've become really tight, really good friends. And he has been, as an actor, he's been in a lot of things that you've seen lately, from The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix to Red One, the Christmas movie that just came out in 2024. And he's on Evil on Netflix. And he's just making a name for himself in that space as an actor. But a couple of years ago, he made an independent film. He wrote, produced, and directed his own independent film. That film is called BFF Zombie, and you can see that on New Deal Television, on NDTV. And so if you want to learn more about that, you can go to newdealtelevision.com/BFF Zombie. And so without further ado, I want to jump right into the episode. This was a great conversation, and very excited about introducing you to my friend, Fedor Steer.
Hello, sir.
So that's what I know of you. And if you have anything else, then you can share with the fine folks.
Absolutely. Goes way back. Probably the first big production that I did was Bloodline on Netflix, and that was something special to me, to be able to get onto a proper big set, and do something at that level. That was exciting. So we filmed that in the Keys. I was played opposite Ben Mendelsohn, who was phenomenal. I got to meet Sissy Spacek and Kyle Chandler. It was like all these big name people.
Yeah, Bloodline's a big show.
Yeah,
that's cool, man.
That was thrilling.
And I actually forgot too. I would have put this on here just because it means a lot to me, whether it means anything to anyone else. But you did a small bit part at the end of Burn Notice on USA back in the day.
Yes.
That was one of my favorite things to learn about you in the last little while. So.
And actually, that came before Bloodline, but I don't count it so much because if you watch that show carefully, all you actually see is the tip of my elbow.
Oh, interesting.
The screen.
I looked recently for that episode, and I didn't see you at all. And if it's the scene I'm thinking about, then I actually rewound it twice, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's here. If it's anywhere, it's this scene, and I didn't notice it all. But I was looking. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah. I was looking for your face and not your elbow, I guess. So there that is. So I guess. So just so you guys know, this is going to be a 3-part series. Fedor has a short film that he wrote and directed and produced and acted in on our network called NDTV. And so we're going to be eventually telling you a lot more about that. But in this 3-part series, we're going to be talking about his origins as an actor or as someone in the film industry. And where he came from to get there and that kind of stuff. But from there, episode 2 will be the creative journey. Like, we'll dive more into his film called Zombie BFF.
BFF Zombie.
BFF Zombie. I'm so sorry. No, it is. That's how I have it on the thing. I'm just an idiot now. So that's the thing.
I'm not commenting on that one.
Yeah, no. I just messed up. So BFF Zombie. Right. No, I did it wrong again. BFF Zombie.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
That time you got it right.
My world is thrown apart right now. And then the final in this little mini series of podcast will be kind of the state of the industry and where do we go from here? Really, like there's a lot of changes happening. So episode 3 with Fedor will be what he thinks is happening, and I don't know if anybody cares what he thinks, but I do. That's so dumb. So anyway, let's get back to this one while we're here. So this is the origin of Fedor Steer in his journey in the film world. So I guess what inspired you to get into filmmaking, whether that's behind the camera, in front of the camera, or anything like that?
Yeah, I didn't set out to get into film. I remember I played with the camera when I was a kid. My dad had a Super 8. The old Super 8 film, actually, and you only had 3 minutes of film on that, and it was expensive. Uh-huh. So every moment was precious. And I remember watching, animation. stuff, Disney animation things,
Sure.
how to put an animation thing together. And I remember spending a lot of time doing claymations, nothing sophisticated. It was a blob of clay running around my mom's sewing machine. We'd do the stop motion thing.
And would you do that with pictures or with the camera?
With the camera, yeah. So
like
it had like a single frame mode. So
neat.
Single frame, boom, 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 and spend hours and hours having this little film put together, and the clay blob would chase a plum. I remember it was a plum. Clay blob would chase a plum around my mom's sewing machine. Yeah.
Do you still have those?
I do. Are they
digitized?
They've been digitized, yeah.
I would love to see that. That's super cool. So how old were you at that point?
Probably like 10, 9, 10, 11, something like that.
That's
really
awesome.
young, really young. And then,
really
I enjoyed
cool.
doing that kind of stuff, and I kind of forgot about it. And I went into proper adult career. I was in the Coast Guard for many years, and in the Canadian Coast Guard as an officer. And then I was a swim coach. I had a little company doing exercise rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And eventually got back on the ships. I worked for a cruise ship. And then I met Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his parents and his brother. They came on the ship for a vacation.
Yeah.
And I was an officer on the ship, so I had my own table, and people would sit at my table for lunch and dinner. And so they joined me for the table, and they were telling me stories about life on set.
That's awesome.
In LA for them.
Sure.
And I was just riveted.
So how old was he at that point? Because he's been in the business a long time.
Yeah. So he was still on Third Rock from the Sun. So I think he was about 14 at the time.
That's one of my favorite shows
ever.
Yeah. I don't know if you've watched much of it, but it's...
Oh, yeah. I watched it. I remember recognizing him as he came on the ship.
Cool.
And everybody else did, but we were professionals, and we tried to not...
He's an actor!
Yeah. We tried to be cool.
Play it cool.
Really cool.
Dude,
it was a lot of fun, actually. There were a bunch of other kids on that ship, teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun to see how they became almost like a protective force field around them. So when we went ashore and like there were a couple islands we'd go to, and people would recognize them. Well, these kids kind of sheltered him, and they became good for that week. They were good friends, and,
That's awesome.
And they hung out, and they had a good time. So he was able to just be a kid for that
awesome.
week. But I spent my time talking to the parents and
Sure.
and about the film industry, and they told me, hey, if you're interested in this kind of thing, you should try it. You've got to look.
Yeah.
You've got to look that will get you hired.
For sure.
And I had never considered that before.
It's the things like you're a tall guy, big guy. I am too, and so like that's one of the things I always think about as an actor is like there's a lot of things that you and I will just never book.
No,
because we're not that guy. But the things that we're perfect for, and nobody else can do it.
Yeah.
So like that is cool. That's
a very niche thing. Yeah.
You're not for everything, but those things that are for you are for you only. Almost.
Nope. I don't get to do a lot of commercials. You don't ever really see me as the dad.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, or the leading guy that gets the girl.
Yeah. Which is funny.
I would like to do those.
I would love to do those too. But it's funny. My wife and I are watching Bad Monkey on Apple TV, Apple Plus TV right now. And
that's Robbie Williams.
Vince Vaughn is the lead.
Oh, yeah.
And Vince Vaughn is taller than you, I think. How tall are you?
I'm 6'5".
Okay, he's 6'5". Yeah. But, he's also been a leading man for 20 years or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
but
I don't know. But people like him give me hope, or Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
So that's fun to think about. Those scripts haven't landed on my desk, as they say.
No.
Yet.
No.
But
it might still happen.
It could happen.
It just has to be the right part. But like you say, for the height and the facial structure and the looks and stuff like that, there are certain roles that come along. My agent says, look at this one. And I go, that's written for me, and boom, I get it.
Yeah.
It's just,
I guess most of the things that I've been on, with very limited exception, have been things set in the 80s. I think it's the long hair.
Oh, yeah.
And just I guess maybe the way I carry myself or something. So like I was on Halt and Catch Fire on AMC for 2 years. I was on Hap and Leonard, another AMC show. I played a state fair guitar player. So not only did I look like a guy from the 80s, I also played guitar, which is what they needed. So one of those things, they were like, you're absolutely perfect for this. Like, we don't even want to look at anyone else for this. So
sometimes it just falls, and all those pieces fall into a row, and that works. Cool. Yeah.
Well, so going back to the claymation thing, so you've been looking at film for a long time and like kind of thinking about that kind of stuff. Like, was there something from back then, or is there something now, like from a film or a filmmaker that you particularly like care about? Like, is what like sets you on fire as far as the industry goes?
It's I think any artist will have that and will tell you the same thing, is there's a need to create.
Yeah.
Whether it's paint or sculpture, photography, whatever, there's a need to create. And then I think I've always had that. I don't know if I knew at the time what that medium would be.
Mm-hmm.
It was after I started acting and actually getting onto real sets that I remembered that this was a fun thing to do. And there's so much to filmmaking too. And that, I love that aspect of it as well. It's complex. There's so many integral parts that all have to mesh and work together for this thing to be pulled off. And that fascinates me. It's almost the same as a football game or a military campaign. Everybody's got their role and they all have to work together to make it happen. And that is a joy, really a joy to behold when it works.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it too where it doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that across not only creative projects,
Yeah.
like think of like even like the Space Shuttle Challenger, like
Yeah.
multi-billion-dollar apparatus that killed a lot of people and was a national tragedy because of a 50-cent O-ring.
Yeah.
It's wild to think like sometimes you're the leading man like we're talking about, or sometimes you're the washer or the O-ring, you know what I mean? Like it's just, but the cool thing about the industry is that it takes everybody. And like there's a reason the credits when they roll they're like 4 minutes long. It's because there's hundreds of people that have to be there.
And they are mostly the most fascinating, interesting people that you could possibly meet, because first of all, they're hardworking.
Yeah.
I mean, in that business, and I like to think of the filmmaking business as a very Darwinian experiment.
Oh, interesting.
Or ecosystem even.
Yeah.
Because you're working from job to job to job. Everybody. When you're talking the craftspeople, the artists that are involved even behind the scenes, the hair and makeup, they're working job to job to job, and they get this work because of referrals and their past history working with other people. So if they turn out to be bad at it or jerks, just people that don't get along with other people, they get filtered out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And what's left, especially at the higher level productions, are good people, hardworking, interesting, creative people.
Yeah.
And they're great to work with.
Yeah, it is fascinating to see. I mean, and like I work on a lot of the like the commercial side of things as well. And so like it's kind of the same, but like you can lock in with a crew that's not quite as cohesive because it's only a 3-day shoot or something, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's beautiful because like, man, like at the end of day 3, maybe you don't want to see any of those people ever again, you know? So like it is really neat. Anytime I've been on a union shoot or something, or a show or a movie that's gone more than, you know, a month.
Days,
or certainly more than a couple of days, like you really start to see that. Like there's not a lot of bad apples there.
No, I've really had a lot of great experiences. I can't complain much about the people I've met or the people I've worked with.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So when you got started, the Joseph Gordon-Levitt thing, I forgot you had told me that before. That's really cool. Because he's been a favorite of mine for a really long time, you know, so that's really neat. But when you did get started, like, were there any roadblocks or challenges other than the fact that you had your big boy job already?
Yeah. I have a big boy job. So after I left the cruise ship, this stuck with me with working with Joe's parents, talking to Joe's parents. After I left the cruise ship, I went and found an agent. We had yellow pages in those days. I flipped open the yellow pages and saw an agent and walked in and said, "Hey, can you use me?" And she said, "Sure, you can be that creepy guy in the dark alley." I said, "I'll do that." And a couple of weeks later, I was on the set of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
No way.
The TV show.
Oh, okay.
The TV show that was filming up in Calgary. I was backstage for hours and hours and hours with some of the other extras and playing cards. And they finally brought us to set. But within a minute of stepping on the set, I was surrounded by wardrobe and hair people and PAs and stuff. And they're like, "We can use you for next week's shoot because you look like so-and-so."
Oh, nice.
And I came back for the next episode. But I had, at that time, already a job lined up in the Caribbean. So I could only do half of that next episode. And then I flew off to the Caribbean. I met my wife-to-be
Oh, well, then great.
Yeah, I know. It all worked out.
Yeah.
And then she got me into, I was a swim coach down there, and then she got me into teaching. And then we went to live in Thailand and teach there. And then from there, we moved to the Middle East, taught there. Nice. And we're trying to start a family. We ended up in Florida, finally got our family started. And this whole time in the back of my head, I was thinking about what Joe's parents had told me about, this is something that will happen for you if you give it a shot. Mm-hmm. And it was.
Yeah.
And that lingered. So as the kids got older, and I think it was around when our son got to be about 4, basically out of diapers when he was around 4.
Yeah.
I thought I'll give this another shot. So I found another agent in Miami.
Okay.
And sure enough, just started doing independent stuff and building up my resume, working my way up. And now I get to work on some of the biggest shows out there, which is really cool. Pretty awesome.
Yeah. Dude, that's cool. The project that brought you to this show, this podcast, is BFF Zombie, as I was saying earlier, not the other way around. Can you talk about that project and the lessons you learned? And have you taken anything from making that film into even what you do for other people's films?
Yeah, I think so. So I'll tell you the origin of that film. I have another daughter from a previous relationship that still lives in Canada, and she was around 13, 14 years old at that time, and she was complaining about how she's bored. Teenage girl, she's always bored. I was like, well, and she liked what I was doing with the film stuff, like being an actor. And I said, do that. And she said, how? I live out in this rural area in Newfoundland, and there's nothing here. I said, all you need is a camera. And get a couple of your friends. How many friends do you have? I said, I had 3 really good friends. I said, well, just write a little script, 2 or 3 pages, and get out there with a video camera and make a film. And she said, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to do. I said, okay, let me write a little script for you. I said, there's 4 of you? Okay. So I wrote a script. Took me about an hour and a half. I wrote a little 5-page script with 4 teenage girls. And somewhere in there I asked her what she likes. She said zombies. So it's
So she was in that. So they came to Florida from.
No. So
okay.
No, I wrote the script. I sent it to her, and I said, "Here's a script. Get a camera.
I see.
Make this film." And a couple weeks go by. A couple months go by. Did you ever make the film? No.
Okay.
Why not? I don't know. Well, what are you doing? Nothing. I'm bored. So it didn't work. But
sure.
I had the script. At some point, a couple of years later, I showed it to a friend of mine who was a director.
Gotcha.
And she looked at it and said, this is a cute little film.
Yeah.
Let's make it, she says.
Yeah.
She was living in Argentina.
Oh.
And she was coming to Florida anyway to visit family. And while she was here, she was going to help me make this film. So now there's a bit of a deadline.
Yeah.
Got to make this happen.
Sure.
So I looked at my script and I started thinking, okay, 4 teenage girls and a guy with a camera.
Sure.
That's creepy.
I didn't think about that, but
that's not going to fly, right?
Sure.
We can't do that. So I said,
that's especially weird based on the fact that your character is ultimately like the priest or whatever. And
I know
there's a lot of poor history there. So
it's not a good look.
Not a good look.
So I had to think. I said, well, okay, the only thing I can do is make this proper professional. How do I do that? I don't know. So I made a website.
Yeah.
I made a website for it. And now it's official. As soon as you put it on the internet, it's real.
Of course. That is the way it works these days.
Yeah.
For sure.
So the cover photo for the film is actually a picture of my daughter. She had a picture of herself. And she was actually laughing, I think, at her phone. It was a selfie she took. And but I didn't really alter the picture, but I darkened it and pumped up the contrast and this kind of stuff. And now it looked like she was screaming. So perfect.
There you go.
So I put that on the website. And then I said, we need to do a proper casting. So I put out casting notices, and I got the girlfriend of my father-in-law, who was about 80 years old at the time, to come into the casting room with me. And I got another friend to come in. I think it was one of the teachers of the school that we had used. So they came in and we did a proper casting. And then I got my friend Joseph Shaw to come in and be a producer, and he was also excellent with special effects and PA stuff, and he'd done everything in the field. So he came in. Then I brought another friend who was a camera guy, and still photographer, and just kept bringing in more and more people, and the project grew. And then we finally got to the point where we had to film, and it was a lot of people for this tiny little film that I thought I would only spend a couple of hours on.
Sure.
So we filmed it over 3 days, over a weekend, and it was ultimately a whole lot bigger production than I ever dreamed it would be.
They usually are.
Yeah. And if I had known that it would ultimately, in the end, take up nearly 2 years of my life, I don't know that I would have started.
Gotcha.
I thought it was going to be like this weekend thing. We'll just have everybody come over, we'll film the thing, and I'll edit it. That might take me a week or so, and then I'll just stick it on YouTube. Yeah. But no, it was 2 years.
Sure. That's funny.
Yeah. But it was all on $500 is what we raised.
Oh, that was another question. Yeah. What was the budget?
The $500.
Nice.
Yeah. And half of that went to food.
Sure.
For cast and crew.
Of course.
And my wife pitched in on that. So if you look at the credits, you make the credits look a little more official.
Yeah.
I used her maiden name.
Nice.
Under catering, just
good.
Add more bodies to it.
That's funny.
Yeah. The other $250 went towards the special effects makeup.
Nice.
Yeah.
You got to have zombies.
Got to add the zombies.
In a zombie movie.
So I did bring in a friend from Orlando who had experience with that kind of stuff. And we had to reimburse her for the material she used up.
That stuff's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's cool. So I'm assuming, back to the names and the credits thing, like, that's funny that you thought to do the maiden name thing. Like, when my brother and I first started making films right out of college, and in college even, like, it's a two-man crew, like me and him, and sometimes I'm the actor also, you know what I mean? So it was like starring William J. Sims, Best Boy Electric, William J. Sims, first AD, William J. Sims. It was like, and it was like everybody that wasn't me was him. It was like William Josh, William Josh, William Josh. Yeah. But that was part of the deal, especially making films in college. Like, they wanted to see like you do a proper credit scroll and stuff like that. Yeah. So like, there might have, in my movie that's actually on our platform on NDTV called Intersection, I mean the credits are like a minute long scroll, and there might be like 7 names in the whole thing. It's just like repeating me and my brother, which is ridiculous. So like, obviously we didn't have maiden names to go by, but we should have made up something because it looks ridiculous.
It does, and that was a consideration. You want to make it look legit. Yeah. And that was one thing. Well, and we legit had a lot of people. When you added up all the people that came in and helped with my father-in-law's girlfriend for the casting, I included her. She gave up her time for it. But everybody else did it all on their own time. There was
That's awesome.
Nobody got paid.
Sure.
Nobody got paid on all that. And it was incredible how much people are willing to put in to a project like that when they see the enthusiasm, when they see the commitment to it. I did do some work on their films, as a bartering thing, So Ben Struble, who did the cinematography, he had a film, so I acted in his film, and nice. he filmed for me. Nice. That was
trading back and forth is great.
Yeah.
I mean, even now in the film, like indie film business now, like with film festivals and stuff, you'll see. Like that whole section of the theater was in everybody's project also. It's like 10 project screen in the room, and like most of the same people were on all of them in different roles and stuff, which is fun. It's fun. And that, you see that carry through into really full scale productions too. Like Adam Sandler's crew from Saturday Night Live, like they're in everything he's ever done for the last 30 years or whatever.
It's absolutely true. And these people that you work with and you're doing things for free for each other, well, eventually, some of you will start having more and more success and start getting paying jobs. Well, these are people that you've worked with and and you trust, and you can work with them.
Absolutely.
And they're part of your vibe, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
You bring them along. And it's beneficial for everybody.
Yeah.
You bring them along, and then that person is elevated a little bit, but then they have a next project that brings it up a little bit, and they bring you along, and you help each other up that ladder.
It's an amazing thing. And like, I come from the music side of the arts way before film and video, anything. And like our thing was always like, a music set is what, at best 2 hours, but a lot of times, like at the time, like back in college, I was doing a lot of like church gigs, so it was like your set's 30 minutes, right? So like you would drive to go like do a weekend thing, you drive 8 hours in a van to go play 3 25-minute sets or something, and so there's, looking back, my time on stage paled in comparison to my time in the van. You know what I mean? So like there was what you're talking about, like that's almost I don't know, it's highlighted even more in the music business, because it's like you have to hire people to go with you that you want to ride with for 8 hours there and 8 hours back. And like what they bring to the stage pales in comparison to what they bring in the van. You know what I mean? So like you hire people you like, whether they're good. I mean, being good is a prerequisite, kind of, but like I've chosen the lesser musician because they were a better hang. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so like it can be like that in film as well, but like we always compare the film business to that. Like you want to work with people you love, and that you can learn to love, rather than like we were saying earlier, like the bad apples, they get weeded out fast, because it's nobody's riding in a van for 8 hours, but it's still the same thing. You're spending 10 hours or 12 hours on a set with somebody. There's a lot of time on a set where the camera's not rolling, and those are the times that the memories are made. And
absolutely. Stuff. And you got to love what you do, and you have to feel no restrictions on your creativity. Yeah. If you have somebody on set who mocks people or is mean, it closes people up. They don't want to throw out an idea because they're worried they might get put down.
They got shot down last
time. Yeah, they got shot down last time. So those are not the kind of people you want out there. You want people there that will happily make a suggestion, and good suggestions.
Sure.
So that the whole thing becomes better because of it.
Yeah. It's funny too, like I'm so detached from like a lot of like going to a theater is really just going to see our friends on screen these days, which is fun in a way, but like it also kind of takes you out of the moment. But like along those lines, I was also doing a podcast the other day. It was an interview about the show *Halt and Catch Fire* that I was on 10 years ago. And the woman running it is like a super fan of the show. And I'm like, I was a super fan of that time in my life, not necessarily the show. You know what I mean? I love the show was fine. You know what I mean? It was a good show, but like she was like, tell me about episode 206. And I'm like, I mean, I can tell you like that we did a really awesome Cinco de Mayo party, like offset, like when that wrapped, like those type of things, like those, like what we're saying, like we're friends first, and then we happen to be making something awesome together, like, and it's those moments are why this business, I think, still exists and thrives. If it's going to thrive, it's because of that.
Mm-hmm. You gotta enjoy it. You gotta love it.
You gotta love it, because once the glitz and the glamour and the lights fade, like it is hard work. Like,
and it's boring too. That's another thing people don't realize is you spend so many hours just sitting there waiting, and you can't talk because the camera's rolling, so you got to be quiet. So you're sitting back there waiting quietly for something that happens. Sometimes hours and hours and hours.
Sure. And I used to think it was funny, like being behind the camera, or like being on the crew rather, like thinking it's boring and like that kind of stuff sometimes. But then you get a trailer one time, and like we'll call you when we need you. Yeah. And then you're staring at the walls in a trailer for 6 hours, and they may need you at the end of the night, or whatever. And then that's lonely. That's way worse. Yeah. Your best bet is at that point to leave the trailer and go find somebody to talk to well outside of earshot of
or my favorite spot when I'm at the trailer is the doors open, I'm sitting on the top step.
There you go.
Hoping somebody interesting will walk by and talk to me.
Please be my friend.
Yes. I'm so lonely.
I'm a long way from home, and I hope you are too. That's funny. That's funny. Well, man, we are well over time. So let me, we'll wrap it up on this episode, but definitely stay tuned in the next week. We'll have episode 2. So next episode will be the creative journey, and we've talked a little bit about it already. There's going
to be some overlap.
Accidental preview of next week for sure, but we're doing that. But watch BFF Zombie, not Zombie BFF.
BFF Zombie.
BFF Zombie. I spelled it right on here, or spelled it right. I wrote it right on here on my notes. So we're gonna watch. you guys can't see this, but we are gonna put a lower third on there. So because it's a link that you have to go to see it. It's newdealtelevision.com/BFF Zombie. So you can go there and you can support Fedor on NDTV. And from that page, you can watch the trailer and read a little bit about the film. But then also, you can click the link and go and actually sign up for NDTV and watch it. And it's going to be cool. It is a cute little story about a sentient zombie teenager.
Yes, and we'll talk about that some more.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that in the creative portion, which is episode 2. So guys, thank you so much for joining us here, and we will see you next time. But until then, get out there and make something cool. See you soon. Thank you so much again for coming to Checking the Gate and to sticking with us through that amazing conversation that I just had with Fedor Steer. That was part 1 of a 3-part series, and I'm excited to have him back for part 2 and 3, in which we talk about his movie BFF Zombie. In part 2, we talk about how he did what he did and the creative elements behind it, things like that. Also, in part 3, we dive deep into what he thinks the future of the movie business is from an actor's standpoint, but also from someone who just knows about writing and producing and directing and distribution at this point. And we're just going to dive deep in both of those topics. And it's going to be great. So thank you so much for coming and being a part of this with us. If you want to learn more about Fedor and his movie BFF Zombie, you can go to newdealtelevision.com/BFF Zombie. And if you yourself have a movie that you would like to distribute, or a series or a documentary or anything like that you want to get out and start hopefully making a living off of your work and your artwork and your stuff that you create, I think we should all make a living off of the things we create. So if you're interested in that, go to newdealtelevision.com/submissions, and we'll get the conversation started, and we'll see if we can get you onto NDTV so that you can possibly also be on this podcast and talk to me about your project and help connect your project to your audience through what we're doing right here. So thank you so much for being a part of this, and I'm so excited. We'll see you soon. See you next time. Get out there and make something great. Can't wait to talk to you again.